Hey everybody, how are you doing? I hope you are staying safe during these crazy times. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Richie, and to put it shortly, I am a 25-year-old living alone in San Francisco, going through what I'm dubbing as my quarter life crisis. Definitely adds a layer of complexity doing it during a global pandemic. If you're curious to know more about this quarter life crisis, I do recommend you watch my first video that I posted on this channel. I will try and link it somewhere here if I can figure that out. By the way, I am new to YouTube, so please bear with me while I figure out my thing on here. So in that first YouTube video, I did mention that my 5-year relationship came to an end at the beginning of 2020. So it's been a few months since the breakup, and I thought I would make a video talking about my experience moving out of my shared apartment with my ex, talking about what I did to kind of help smooth out this transition and what I prioritized looking for my new space. So if this video is of interest to you, please keep watching to the very end, and I hope it can help you out. So February was a weird month for our relationship. Obviously, the decision to break up happened, and so there was a lot of obviously conversations that went back and forth. One of the big things that we tried to figure out what to do was with our apartment and what we were gonna do. We were on a lease together, all that stuff. But basically in that month, what we decided was that I was going to move out at the end of February, and he was going to move back in whenever I left, so March, and finish out the rest of the lease. And so that was basically what we kind of came to an agreement of. But basically, probably towards like the end, well, probably like mid to like the end of January, he was living with a relative nearby and kind of just took his essentials. So majority of his stuff was still in our apartment. So that was basically the situation that we were in. So this is the perspective and the advice that I'm giving based on this situation. So I basically narrowed it down to 3 things that I would give as a piece of advice to anybody who is going through a similar situation as me. The first thing is give yourself the space and time to grieve, and definitely don't rush. And what I mean by that is living in that apartment was extremely hard because not only was I grieving the relationship and mourning the death of our relationship, not to get too morbid, but it was also every day I'm coming home to an empty apartment to where I was used to having my partner being there, you know, or my partner coming home at some point. Like, it was a space that was always occupied by 2, and now all of a sudden it was occupied by 1. And for me, I found it very hard to be in our bedroom. And I felt like very pressured internally to kind of be like, okay, I need to get over it. Like, I need to sleep in the bedroom. But ultimately, I would give yourself that space and, you know, reassure yourself that it is okay for you to feel however you feel and do whatever you do, and don't do whatever you don't want to do, basically. But eventually, yes, you will have to face the music and get that closure. But I think while you're going through the process of coming to an acceptance, basically, I think it's totally okay and valid for you to take your time with that situation. I hope that made sense. The second piece of advice is to remove any trigger items, if you know what I mean. If your situation is similar to mine, everybody's stuff is still there. You know, my stuff was still there, his stuff was still there, our stuff that we bought together was still there. And so if you are sentimental like me, you know, I had a picture of us from our first international trip that was set right by my TV in the living room. And so for like a solid 2 weeks, I would just look at that photo and just immediately bawl. And that was cathartic at times, not really cathartic at times. And so I think it's important to remove those kind of main triggers that are just going to draw you back into that sad kind of feeling, and just not allowing yourself to kind of move through the stages of grief, basically. And so any triggers that may bring you into that immediate I need to just cry looking at this space, definitely remove those just for the sake of you getting through the day. Finally, the third thing that I would recommend is to definitely change up the energy in the space. And what I mean is everything about this space is going to be hard, it's going to be sad, it's going to be maybe frustrating, it's going to be confusing, it's going to be all of these very overwhelming emotions, and that is just going to be the energy that is just going to be emitted through the entire apartment. And what I found that was really helpful for me was to change up the energy in a sense. And so while I was living alone in the apartment, my mom came up to visit. I also had friends over for dinner, or they would come over during the day, and we would have wine or we'd watch a movie together, and just having a different, changing it up so that way it's not so, oh, I'm dumped, or like I'm here alone, things like that. Just kind of, I don't know, spiritually, if you're into that, and just kind of really shifted the energy of the space and kind of just helps with the day-to-day. So I hope those 3 things kind of help you out in terms of this transition. I am so sorry you're going through it, but these are hopefully the peace of minds that can kind of help you, and the small things to kind of get you through the day. So now what I want to talk to you all about is the 3 things I prioritized when I was looking for my new space post-breakup. So the first thing I needed to prioritize was more so a decision. I needed to decide if I wanted to live on my own or if I wanted to live in with housemates or roommates, depending on your situation. So for me, I definitely weighed out both options. This may be more dependent on your personality types. If you're more introverted, more extroverted. As an introvert, the idea of living on my own was a little bit more appealing at the time, but also being broken up with and just wanting some positive social interactions, living with housemates was obviously really appealing. I could have, potential friends. I could just have people to kind of do things with to kind of get through the post-breakup, getting used to the new normal. So ultimately what I ended up deciding to do was living on my own. And I ended up doing that for a few reasons. Moving into like a room that already had everything established, like how they had their kitchen, how the living room was set up and everything like that, just felt kind of intrusive in a way. Like I felt like I was stepping into someone else's space. And for me, what I really wanted was, or more so what I felt like I needed like a clean slate. I needed a blank canvas to just recreate, rebuild my life. And I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do that living in a apartment that was already that the dynamic was already kind of set, you know what I mean? So if it was a different time of year where, that housing apartment market was a little bit bigger and there's more people looking to move into a new place together, I think that might have changed my opinion. But because it was more so just like rooms available in apartments, I kind of just felt like, I would rather have my own place that I'm moving into and just recreate it to be whatever it is I needed. So ultimately, I decided that I was going to live on my own. With that, the second thing that was a priority for me was budget. But in terms of budget, it was definitely different per if I was living on my own versus if I was living with roommates. Kind of what I was hoping, or what I was targeting if I was living on my own, was anywhere from $1,700 to $2,100 bottom line, so all utilities, rent, everything. But if I was moving into a room with other housemates, my budget was more so around $1,200 to $1,500-$1,600. And so that is, again, just kind of like my personal range that I was targeting. But if you have any questions in terms of like, how am I able to pay for all this? What does my budget look like? I'm happy to make a video if that's of interest to you all, so please let me know in the comments below. And the last thing is location. Location is important. And when I was looking at different apartments, I did think about maybe this would be like a good time to kind of look at different apartments in different neighborhoods in San Francisco that I've never been to. It would be new, it'd be exciting. I'm going through a transition in my life, all that stuff. I would definitely recommend checking that out. Definitely consider that if that is something that excites you and anything that kind of brings more positivity during this crazy transition for you. I've hopped around in a few different places in San Francisco and primarily live in an area called the Richmond, which is close to Golden Gate Park, close to the beach, Land's End, Sutro Baths, that area. Ultimately, what I ended up deciding though is to stay within the Richmond district, and here's my reasons why. Basically, the only reason was routine. It's really just because of my routine. And so my thought process behind it was, I just got out of a relationship where I'm used to doing things a certain way, like, going to a grocery store or eating at certain restaurants, or I felt like everything needed to be as consistent as it could. I felt like my world was already flipped upside down with being broken up with and having to kind of mourn the relationship and get used to just being on my own and everything like that. I felt like for me, the last thing I needed to do was also change up my routine, to where I would need to rethink how I'm commuting, rethink where I'm going shopping for groceries, just getting used to a new area. Like that all just seemed even more overwhelming than exciting. But again, that is just me, and if change to that level is something that benefits you and services you, then 100% do it. But for me, I decided to stay close to what was comfortable and what I was used to. So I hope this video was helpful for you. And if you're going through a similar situation, first, I'm so sorry that you're going through it, but I hope that these few small things kind of help smooth out the edges going on. I'm definitely going through it. So if there's comfort that we are going through it together, I hope that can help out too. I know getting through the day-to-day just seems like such a daunting task, but I hope that you're still staying motivated to be participating in life as it continues to move on. But it is definitely hard. There's no getting around that, or there's no easy way to kind of sidestep it. So it's definitely a crazy time. But before I go, the one thing in terms of moving out into a new place is something that my friend mentioned to me while I was talking to her, and that is you don't heal where you hurt. I really do think that after I was able to move out of the apartment that I shared with my ex, that my healing was able to start. And so I'll leave you all with that. Again, I hope this video was helpful for you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please comment below kind of your experiences. Or if you have any questions, I'd love to kind of help answer and help out in any way that I can. But that's it for today's video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I hope to kind of post more videos about this to kind of just share my life and give advice and help out where I can. With that, I will see you all very, very soon. Please take care, please stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll check in with you all very soon.